Hi everybody, I'm back in China now, and today we're going to talk about a very important topic, probably the most important topic in life, and that is death. Most of us don't want to talk about it. We find it upsetting, we find it scary, but today I want to tell everybody why you shouldn't be scared and why, in fact, death is the only thing that gives life its meaning. Today I'm going to talk from an a-religious perspective. I don't want to talk about whether there isn't an afterlife or any of this. I want to talk on the basis, let's assume whether you're religious or you're not religious, doesn't matter. Let's make some general points about why you should be able to accept death peacefully and to think about it without fear. I have 3 points to make, really, and the first point is influenced by religion, but not in terms of the afterlife, and that is from the Buddhist perspective, what's actually happening when we die. And I'm going to use Buddhism and physics together here. So, to a Buddhist, you may have heard of the concept of no self. What does that mean? Well, a lot of us are scared of death because we think that the self is extinguished, it dies, it goes away. But for a Buddhist, they would say, well, there's no real impermanent self. There's no real permanent self in a way. What this means is that there's no real continuous entity that possesses your mind and body. What you are today, your mind and body, there are a confluence of different events occurring together. Neurons firing in your brain, creating emotions and movement and so on. The food you eat, the people you hang out with, your environment. And all of these things are impermanent, right? So the person you are today, tomorrow, in the future, and when you die, is a consequence of a bunch of impermanent events coming together. There is no immutable object standing behind you that can be extinguished when you die. From a physics perspective, what I'd say is this. A lot of our problems in the world, it comes from ego, by viewing ourselves, this permanent concept of self, as being the most important thing in the universe. We're all stars in our own Hollywood movie. But the fact of the matter is this. We, as human beings, were all born from the cause of stars. As I said before, nuclear fusion in stars forms the elements, the stars explode, release the dust becomes planets, plants, animals, and eventually you. When you die, you will return in this big cosmic drama that we're a part of. You will return to the earth. Energy is neither created nor destroyed in physics. You don't disappear. You are just converted to other forms of energy. You are released back into the universe, whereupon you can become anything. One day, again, when the earth is extinguished and the sun has died, another star will be formed, possibly, with your material in it, that will again die and again form new worlds and possibly new living beings, billions of years into the future. My point is this, you are not the center of the universe. We know this. There is no permanent self. What happens when we die? Well, we continue to play our role in this grand cosmic drama. Your birth was an event. Your death is another event, but they're not the start and the beginning. You existed before you were born. You came from stardust. You came from the food and everything that your mother and father ate. And after you die, you'll become something different. But you may say, hey, okay, fine. I can accept this from a scientific and logical perspective. But my consciousness is gone. So that's pretty scary, right? And this comes on to my second point, really. There's a famous British biologist called Richard Dawkins, and he was often asked this question. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether I agree or disagree with his views in this video, but he was often asked, because he's a committed atheist, well, aren't you afraid of death if there's no afterlife? And he said, well, not really, because I didn't remember what happened before my birth. And death is exactly the symmetrical problem. And that's it, really. You're not going to suffer pain, even if you don't believe. Again, we're putting any religious belief to one side, any belief in reincarnation or paradise or whatever it is that you may subscribe to. Even in the absence of all of that, death would surely just be the same feeling as before you were born. And what's that to be scared of? You already went through it. But my third and most important point is this. Without death, life has no meaning. There's a very famous author called Jorge Borges. He wrote a book called The Immortals. The Immortals talks about a Roman soldier called Rufus, and he goes in search of effectively immortality, the city of the immortals, and he finds it. But rather than being the paradise of enlightened beings that you may think would come with unnaturally long life, he found a group of people that were listless, apathetic, bored, and longed for death. Why is that? Because it is the finiteness of the time that we have in this form that provides us our meaning. With this comes this concept of personality, of goals, of purpose. and of valuing our experiences in time. In the book, The Immortals, the people who had lived forever had no personality because they could be anyone and everyone that they wanted to be in infinite time. They could experience everything, so nothing anymore had any meaning. There was no happy, there was no sad, there was no pain, there was no joy. The finiteness of our lifespan is exactly what makes this life precious and what gives us meaning. And that's probably the biggest takeaway from this video, is not to be scared of death, but to view death as the thing that imparts the value of the present moment. The average human lifespan is around 70 years. Let's say 70 years. What does that translate into? Well, I've done a quick calculation. 25,600 days, 615,000 hours. That's not a lot, to be honest, when you calculate that. And when you factor in sleep, it's even less. That is a call to action to all of us to experience life to the fullest, whatever that may be for you. So enjoy this moment, enjoy all your moments, and await with fascination about what might happen in your next part of the journey.